Welcome to the March 3rd Fairfield City School District Board of Education meeting. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll?
Mr. Begley.
Here.
Ms. Birding. Here. Mr. Clark.
Present.
Mrs. Gundram.
Here.
Mrs. Shorter.
Here.
Mrs. Shorter, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mrs. Shorter. We'll get right into presentations and resolutions. High School Spotlight. Principal Dr. Bill Rice.
They always ask, like, what should we call you? I said, well, I've answered worse, so I'll take it. Good evening, and thank you, Board of Education and District Administration, for allowing the high school to present this evening. Our hope tonight is to provide a brief overview of the continuum of services that we offer at the high school for our students as it relates to mental health. I would like to begin tonight by recognizing that almost all of these services would not be available if not for the foresight of this Board of Education through the work of Mr. Smith, Mr. Jeff Madden, Mr. Matt Crapo, and our very own Dr. Rebecca Salyers. And speaking of Becky, our students at the high school are so lucky to have an advocate in the building who works tirelessly on these matters each and every day. So we're going to jump right in, and we're going to provide a lot of data, so if you have any questions along the way, feel free to stop me. I want to start by going over something that's one of the newer services that we offer here at the high school, our school-based social work, and we actually have Jenna present with us today. If I were to point to one service that has had the biggest impact on the overall well-being of our building, and not just our students, but of our building, it is the implementation of our school-based social workers this school year. On the screen, you'll see Jenna and Tiffany. They hit the ground running at the beginning of the season and out in the hallways, more than sometimes our security monitors were, meeting our students, making and forming relationships, immersing themselves immensely in the school culture in the building, and making themselves available for our students. There are a couple of quick overviews of the services that they provide. I want to say, in addition to what you see on the slides, these positions have helped the administrative team and the school's guidance counseling team immensely. Just speaking candidly, we are not experts in this world of mental health by any means. Even our guidance counselors are not experts, but these two folks are, and the ability to go to them when we have a student in crisis. Previous to these positions, a lot of times it required our assistant principals to put aside hours of their day to work through a student case, and now we have these two resources there as experts. So it has helped, that's why I said at the beginning, it's helped our building immensely, not just our students, but support for our guidance team and our administrative team as well. With each of these roles that we'll talk about this evening, we will provide a little bit of data so you can see how many students they've interacted with, how many cases they've seen, how many are they repeatedly seeing, how many have they one time saw, just different things along those ways. And I'll give you a couple of minutes there to just digest some of that data. You'll see when it says referred to, those are some services that we'll talk about here in a little bit with the presentation, oftentimes in school therapy. Ms. Morgan Gardner is with us this evening. Thank you for being here, Morgan. Morgan works through the Butler County ESC, through the Success Program. This supports our students, but different with this service, it also supports our families immensely in a variety of matters. And as you can see with this slide, you'll see some of the things that Morgan and her position support our families with. Services like rental assistance, utility assistance, matters such as that. Clothing when students need clothes, toiletries when students and families need toiletries. These are all things that Morgan helps our students with. And obviously, we've seen an immense increase over the last 2 years with everything that's been taking place for the pandemic. There's some additional data there for the Success Program. Envision Services works with our students who are considered at risk. So for a variety of reasons, students who we know of that are at risk for detrimental behaviors. It might be drug and alcohol use. It might be struggle with socially fitting in a large high school. Envision is an outside service that comes in and oftentimes will run preventative small groups, helping kids make good decisions, sound decisions, and keep themselves safe. Again, you'll see some data with who Envisions sees. The next, I think, 7 or 8 slides will deal with our school-based therapy services that we offer. And starting here is with Ms. Paula Martin. She oversees, she's what we call case management. So we've gotten to a point now in our building with the number of cases that we require a case manager in the building. And we'll talk, or I will mention here in a little bit about where we are with some of our numbers. But these all deal with in-school therapy. So I think it was probably 3 years ago when we started to offer these services. You see it's titled New Path. New Path was formerly St. Joe's. So if you're familiar with that program, that is now New Path. You'll notice that each of these numbers of those that are served may seem small to you, but the issue that we are seeing is that we are at capacity with each of our providers. And yes, we are continuing to look for more providers, more therapists, but in the world that we are living in right now, many of these service providers are struggling to find enough therapists to meet the demand. So you'll see the numbers look small, but they're at capacity for their individual caseloads. I want to say one of the big improvements that we've had this year, and I'll just keep clicking through as we see Miss Emily is here today. Thank you for being here, Emily. One of the biggest improvements that we've seen with New Path and Catalyst, those are our 2 outside therapy services, Mr. Matt Crapo organizes a meeting pretty regularly where he puts all of the providers in the same room together to collaborate and effectively communicate, because we all have the same goal, right? It's to serve our students. And I don't think our collaboration and our communication was the best for the first couple of years with multiple providers. But I think that is an absolute necessity, that step that we've taken this year. Becky's a part of that, and I think it's certainly benefited our students. These are, both of these services serve students who have insurance and who don't have insurance. That's the purpose of having 2 different therapeutic teams in the building. And you can see they do individual counseling. So instead of a parent having to pull their student out of the building and take them to a therapeutic session, we can work with their schedule to have them receive services right in the building. Nice and smooth, quiet, no one knows what's going on. It's just something that we just roll with in the building. Oftentimes these services will carry on top of each other. Morgan will become aware, or Jen or Tiffany will become aware of a student. They will work with the case manager to get the referral paperwork taken care of, and then the services will step in and take care of all the paperwork they need with the parents. So it's a nice continuum, right? We've got kind of everything in place now that we have these social workers. And again, some more data as it relates to the students that we're serving. One of the struggles with any therapy service, and we see it as well in the high school, is the difficulties in reaching our parents or getting our parents to fill out the paperwork in a timely manner. So we do have students that are waiting in a queue, essentially, waiting to receive services that we just haven't been able to get there with the parents yet. That's why you'll see some of them that says referred to services or waiting for paperwork, those sorts of things. Burnside Grief Support is something that our guidance counselors identified as a service that would be beneficial to our students. And you see Miss Katie there, who comes in and works with That's a small number of students, but Fernside deals specifically with students that have experienced or will experience loss in their family. Most of the time, oftentimes, it's as it relates to a terminal illness. Most of the time it is cancer. So these are students that are identified that can sit in a small setting, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes in a small group, and just process how they're dealing with that as a family and as a young teenager. I'm proud of that service because that's something that our guidance counselors identified as a need and went out and found that resource into the school. Handle with Care, I don't know if you are necessarily familiar with that. That's a statewide program, and this is just helping us to better communicate with local law enforcement and police and fire. How this kind of works is if there's an event at a student's house over the weekend or the evening before, the night before, I will receive an email. It's an automated email that will say Joe, and it will say Handle with Care, and it will say his age. Attends Fairfield High School. Does not provide any other details. So what I do first thing in the morning, and we unfortunately get 2 or 3 of these a week, I will that morning send an email to all of their staff. I've kind of created a forum email that will say very similar, Joe, we got a Handle with Care last evening for Joe. Please handle him with care. This is confidential, and I repeat every time, please don't approach Joe about this. Don't call him out of class and say what happened last night. It's simply an awareness thing, and I always, when we trained our staff on it, I kind of gave them the scenario. Joe comes in and he has his head down, and that's really annoying you as a teacher. And you're constantly going to Joe saying, Joe, put your head up, Joe, put your head up, Joe, put your head up. Well, the Handle with Care told us that Joe had an event at his house last night. Maybe he didn't get enough sleep last night. So let's leave Joe alone today, essentially is what we're saying. Let's give Joe a break today. I think, I was surprised. I thought we would run into some hurdles where some of our teachers would still approach the kids, but knock on wood, we've been in good shape. And again, I say, unfortunately, we do get a couple of these a week. Sometimes on a weekend, I'll come in on Monday and have 2 or 3 of them to send out to staff. And we don't know the details of it. Rob Corner, our school resource officer, if it's one that he thinks he needs to tell me about, he will tell me the details, but it can be anything. It can be a younger sibling ran away and the police responded to the house, or it could be a domestic violence situation in the house. It can be anything there and in between. At this time, I'm going to turn it over, who I mentioned earlier, Dr. Rebecca Salyers, and she's going to talk to us about how the students are engaged in this work as well.
All right, sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. So I'm going to talk about Hope Squad. Hope Squad, you are, I'm sure, familiar with. It's a program that's in schools, started out in Utah, and then there's Grant Us Hope, the division that's here in Cincinnati from a student that died by suicide at St. X they started. So we've been collaborating with Hope Squad in the area, also Hope Squads in other schools. Like, for instance, Cortland, Ms. Ma'am Ben Schoten is one of our advisors, and her sister is an advisor at Lakota. So our students have been collaborating with them since they've had their program implemented a couple years before we did at the high school here. And Mr. West and Mrs. Muthing also work with this group. So they've done QPR training. I think the next slide has statistics on how many students are currently in members in our building. So 30 student members, 14 as of this year were QPR trained. All the ones last year were also QPR trained. We also offered that training to staff if they would like it, and it's an ongoing training that is offered free all the time. So if you're ever interested, you can seek that out. And then there's a curriculum that they follow, so they do activities. Today they were designing T-shirts. They have been supporting Acceptance Week, which has been awesome here. And they also, one of the more recent challenges they did was the Kindness Challenge was for Valentine's Day, where they could go out and show the type of kindness they decided to do, some of our writing letters and whatnot, as you'll see in the video, and then they could win chocolate. So we'll watch that video for like 2 minutes and something.
Click on the first tab.
This is my life, Rapid. I know you did. Actually, McKinney did too.
To spread kindness in February, I'm going to surprise my friend with some homemade cookies and some kind notes just to make sure that they are happy and to tell them how much I appreciate them.
So I wrote this letter partnering with Daphne to let them know that we see them and we appreciate all that they're doing. We also got donuts to them to give them a treat as a token of our appreciation.
My partner Devin Duncan and I both gave donuts to the Fairfield Township Police Department as an act of kindness for Turn Up the Heat in January. I just want to encourage everyone to continue to show kindness to your family, friends, peers, and most importantly, our community. A small act of kindness can go a very long way.
I've decided to write a thank you note to someone who brings in gift cards and cookies and little treats to my work every Tuesday. As it being Tuesday, I can't wait for him to see it. What will you do for your kindness challenge?
See, Mr. Smith, the students make great use of your snow days. Okay, so I want to put out a couple of things. Obviously, the numbers on the caseload seem small, I know, but we're actually maxed out when it comes to therapists in the building. That is, they are at their maximum caseload right now, so we do have students on a waiting list. And we know, based on statistics, like 1 in 5 students between 12 and 18 is suffering from a diagnosable mental illness. We know that. We know that's on the rise. I read an article last week saying that anxiety and depression has gone up 50% in teens since the virtual learning situation that they were faced with. So we know that the need is continuing to rise, and we are truly thankful for all they've done. They've done amazing things in our building. And Caroline Haynes, one of the counselors, organizes a monthly meeting with us, so we all meet monthly as well. All right, and then, so the last thing is, I talked to some students and staff members to try to get feedback about the positive things they're seeing or things that they are seeing in the building. I put a couple of the staff feedback comments on there, and then you should have copies of that as well. And then the last thing in your packet is a crisis plan that Tiffany and Jenna, Tiffany couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately, created with the admin team at the building just to have a guideline and something to follow. Also, I forgot, you had the mental health resources. So what we did with that is just put all the options on there for students and staff. We're going to laminate them and put them in the classrooms because some of the staff have reached out about the services that are available and who they should contact or how they should refer students.
Thank you again. All those, there's a ton of people that have worked so long over the last 5, 6, 7 years to bring these services to our students. They're ever evolving. There are new services available. I think with this team and the foresight again of this board, we'll continue to offer as much as we possibly can to our students. As we say every day, if the students are worried about all of these things, they're never going to get to the content that we're trying to deliver. So we have to take care of that in order to be able to teach them the content that we need to. So this time, if you guys have any questions, we're here to answer those for you.
Please.
Yeah, I'll go. Thank you, Dr. Rice, and all your staff. It's unfortunate we have to do this, but it's fortunate that we are able to do this for students because it is, last 2 years, if they've shown anything, that it is effective, as you said, Ms. Hauer, on the children, the students. And it's not going to get any better, I don't think, soon. So the Handle with Care program, I think that's just unbelievable. you said exactly what I was thinking as soon as you said it. We get that notice, and you see Johnny sitting there with his head down, and normally you'd want to go smack Johnny or touch him and wake up and poke him, whatever, to get him to pay attention, right? But this, you know that you just handle with care and have some sympathy and empathy for what's going on. If we don't know, then that's okay, but at least we have some insight to what's going on. And it makes their life a lot easier, and then they can go to Handle with Care, go to one of you for further help, go to Hope Squad. And that just segues into Hope Squad. I think it's a great program. My daughter's been in it for quite a few years, and she likes it. And my biggest concern with that, and I mentioned it last year, was do the Hope Squad students have support as well? Because that is a lot on a student. And I think Ms. Aug did bring that up and got some information that they are getting that support as well. Because they're still students, they're still kids, and they have problems too. So, but I'm very thankful that you and your team are putting this all together, and there's so many opportunities with the grief. I saw there was a couple, and you mentioned the cancer and things like that, but I'm sure that for car accidents or anything like that would also play into that as well. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We had one weekend 3 weeks ago where we lost 3 parents in one weekend. So and those are the ones we know about. We always worry about those kids that we don't know
That
about.
you don't know, yeah. And then lastly, when my question, I guess, would be when students go into some of these sessions, they're missing class, so I assume they have the ability to retake that or go online and take that or something like that. Is that how that might work?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, if there is a fuss from the staff, right, that's one of those things that, you know, they will ask us to make sure that the student that is receiving therapy isn't always missing second bell, like therapy isn't always second bell. And so we try to balance that as much as possible and spread it out over all of their 7 bells, exactly for that reason.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. I know that's stressful on yourselves, and we'll be praying for you because I know that's tough. So, but thank you very much. It's awesome.
I also think this is a great program, and I appreciate that you have the social workers there to, like you said, bridge the gap, because, you know, maybe a kid's having an issue, but they don't feel like they need counseling, but maybe they just need somebody to talk to temporarily, and I'm so glad that you're there for that. Several years ago, I worked with kids that were involved in the juvenile justice system, and sometimes they had mental health things that they didn't feel like they could talk to somebody about, and that's what led them to that. So whatever we can do to help, as we talk about the whole child, and to help kids from becoming at risk and being involved in that system, or, you know, and just working to their potential, achieving their potential in life, and as students, I think is great. So thank you all very much.
Great, thank you.
I'd just like to echo those comments. Thank you so much for doing this for kids. We know that the need has increased with the pandemic. With all of the issues that kids are facing now, I don't even know how they do it all with all of the pressures. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so just grateful that you guys have a cohesive plan and just a great approach to helping kids, helping all kids. And as Mrs. Gondrum said, supporting the whole child. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be a parrot here and parrot the comment of everybody else so far. Thank you guys so much for all the work you guys are doing, and the fact that you guys took this program and really kind of ran with it and built it to what it is and expanding it and continue growing with it. I love that you get all of the providers together on a meeting to get onto the single page, because we are one group to provide services for all of the kids, regardless of what that need is. And I'm very thankful for the programs that we offer and that we are continuously finding ways to support our children in the district.
Thank you. I think it's very telling that the other assistant principals are here. Principal Sanders, Principal Bellamy came out as well. That you obviously support this program, believe in the support program. Counselors came out tonight, so I appreciate that very much. You know, the aha moment for me was very early in your presentation when you talked about how important it is to have these professionals, these trained, skilled people. If you didn't have that, I may be oversimplifying it, but then that outburst or that moment of crisis is just a disciplinary issue for the assistant principals, as you said. And then it just compounds from there. Nothing gets solved, and we're treating it as a behavioral issue when there's another way to deal with that student. So again, thank you so much for what you're doing. That's so important. Okay,